like we are connected to the plants. We don't, weren't able to make that connection.
Right.
So yeah.
And, studies have shown 60% of the pharmaceutical drugs on the market, 60% of them, the primary active ingredient is from a phyto-based, it's plant-based. And where it is not plant-based, it is a synthetic form of a plant-based active ingredients that is being used. And so they have taught us, the society has taught us not to appreciate and not to value the medicine that is available to us, you know, and in abundance. And so because of that, one of the things that I teach when I just started, the first series of videos that I did, and I do a series on YouTube, when I found out what happened to me, and when I say what happened to me, is that I got caught in the trap of not knowing anything about my health because I thought it wasn't my responsibility. I thought it belonged to brilliant people who are called doctors. Right. When I found out that mistake and I started, you know, to learn local herbs, I started a series of videos called Herbalist Speaking on YouTube. So pretty much every Monday I try to put out a new video. My goal is to help the average Jamaican and most of Jamaica, if possible, to be able to identify not only herbs, but identify it in its raw state. Mm-hmm. The first series that I did was herbs in my backyard, right? Because most people don't understand that they have a pharmacy in their yard. Yeah. Most people don't know that they have a pharmacy in their yard.
And I can attest to that.
On the premises, I just went outside and said, okay, it's here. I'm gonna pick some things and say and have a conversation. So talk about them. So I just picked, you know, 4 or 5 things that was literally outside my, you know, right outside my door, right on my doorstep. And yeah, this is another one. And I've been chewing on this one. This is the purslane. So we can talk about some of these things because that's what's happening. We're actually, you know, as farmers, a lot of time we're weeding out things, as I said, that is very important that we should be using. So I know that you're a very busy doc because you have a lot of different people coming to you. But what is one of the most that you find a lot of people coming to you for these days in terms of stuff? What are the prime ones?
The primary concerns that we have is kidney related issues, acidity, stomach acidity. So let me start at the top. So we have from the top, and I'm talking because for those of you who know me, I use a machine that I use to put persons on to analyze. So I tell persons, when you come to see me, you don't have to tell me what's wrong with you. You don't have to tell me. I'll tell you. So I just came from a house a while ago where I just did an assessment with a lawyer and his wife, who was a top nurse in England, who was a skeptic. And after going through the machine, she wants to come and do a retreat, you know. But let's talk about from the top. So there's a cardiovascular, which is a high cholesterol crystal, which narrows the blood vessel. That's one of the top thing that causes circulation issues. Then there is reduced vascular elasticity, which means that the blood vessels are not very elastic. So basically circulation, then there's a stomach, there's acidity, and then constipation related issues. Then there is kidney related issues, then there's liver related issues. I'm going to go back to the liver. And liver related issues, I said to persons, I want you to check this out. There's 39 people on the call. I'm going to say something to you. Because this was very shocking to me. I don't know if you know, but there's actually a specialist for every part of the body, except the liver.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So there's a gynecologist, there's a urologist, there's an ear specialist, there's skin specialist, there's you name it. To every single part of your body has a specialist except one part. And that one part of the body is the liver, because the liver was not always called the liver. The liver was actually called a lifer at one point. So it was called a lifer. Yeah, the lifer, because the quality of your liver determines the quality of your life.
Okay.
In other words, if you understand how important the liver is, if you take care of your liver, you virtually can't get sick.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right? The liver is so important. The closest you'll come to a liver specialist is a pathologist. Everything that you ate last week, week before, everything that you've ate, the liver is a black box of the body. So what happened is that most people don't take care of the liver, and that is not being taught. There is sweet, sour, salt, and bitter, 4 tastes. Now, just think about it. Every food that you eat, when you go into a supermarket, every food that you eat will fall under 2 categories. It will either be sweet or salt.
Mhm.
And there are actually sicknesses related to sweet and salt.
Right.
You won't see sour because most sour foods, natural foods, are high in vitamin C,
Right.
which helps to boost the immune system. And most foods that are bitter stimulates the liver. And so what you find is that of the 4 food tastes, the least you'll find people eating, you'll find sweet, you'll find salt, then you'll find sour, but nobody eats bitter.
That's true.
And here's what happened. Once you reach about age 40, listen to this now. Doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter how well you eat, doesn't matter how much you exercise, doesn't matter what you do. When you reach age 40, your liver loses 50% of its, what you call it, effectiveness, or its effective function. Which means that by default, once you reach age 40, you start to go down the hill steep. But here's the problem: we don't take care of our liver. So I'm giving persons a cue. Once you reach age 40, one of the things that you need to start to do is to increase bitter foods in your diet.
Okay. Let's hear it.
You need to start to introduce bitter foods in your diet. Bitter foods help to stimulate the liver, and if you know the liver has over what? Liver has over 2,000 functions, with over, I think, 400 being primary functions. So if your liver is in a bad state, doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna be in a bad state. So going back to your question, so we have the liver, which is really critical, and then I think after the liver, for young girls under 30, it's going to be gynecologically related issues. We see a lot of women with ovarian cysts, fibroids. We see a lot of men with and urinary tract infection. We see a lot of men with erectile dysfunction, and then for women now over the menopausal age, we'll see bone issues, and for men we'll see prostate issues. So that pretty much accounts for the bulk of what we see as health concerns.
Right. And all stems back to, taking care. When you say talking about taking care of the liver, is what you're putting in your system, and the kinds of foods, and that's why making it relation to organic farming and eating clean, because if you're uptaking the plants with all these different chemicals, which is, the liver is like, what is this?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it. So it now has to spend a lot of more energy trying to figure out what it is and how to eliminate it out of the system. Am I right?
Definitely. So one thing I tell persons, one of the single most important thing that I tell persons, apart from getting the education, is begin to take better care of your liver. So there is the typical Jamaican will talk a lot about detox or give me a flush. There are different types of cleanse, but 2 of the most important cleanse that you can ever do is what we call a liver flush, which is to cleanse the liver physically, and also a liver cleanse, which is to cleanse the liver chemically, because the liver needs to be cleansed in 2 ways. Chemically, because all the shampoos, all the chemicals, all the lotions, all the creams, all the oils, every chemical that you use ends up in your liver. So it all goes to the liver, and there are certain molecular stuff now that causes the formation of gallstones, which help to block the liver. And every now and then you need to flush those gallstones so that you can have a good, healthy bile flow. So that physical cleansing is also very important. And there's a myriad of health issues. A myriad of health issues is linked to an unhealthy liver. So the single most important thing that anybody can do the single, if there was ever, if there was ever placebo, not placebo, if there was ever, what we call it now, if there was ever a magic bullet, a silver bullet, it would have been for me a liver flush. Can't overemphasize that enough.
All right, so that liver flush is something that you do a combination of
No.
herbs, tea.
No, that is so, that the liver flush is so important that I've done a YouTube video giving a detailed step as to how to do it. So if you type in liver flush, amazing liver flush, if you I'll maybe put the link on the person to find it. But it is so important. There are persons who contact me from all over the world. Let me see if you do and talk about the amazing benefits. There are some persons who actually do the liver flush when they get the stones out, because the medicine really softens the stone. When they come out, if you allow them, if you get this stool and sieve it and just let it dry, then they form back into hard stones again. So I have persons who actually do that and bottle them, you know, just to look and say, man, look at what came out of me. When persons do the liver flush, I do ask them to reach out to me or send me an image of it so that I can guide them, because when you do the liver flush, the size of the stones and the color of the stones are also indicators as to indicative guides as to, you know, how to move forward, you know, because different colors and different sizes indicate different stuff.
Okay, that's you guys are hearing it here.
So we have, you see, always a blessing in Jamaica to have, you know, Doc here and other practitioners that are really trying to make sure that we're not inundated with a lot of other things, that we actually have the medicines here that we can use and the knowledge as well. So we're at a time, and, you know, I wanted to go for maybe another hour or so, but I know that there's a number of people that are, can I open up those?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so guys, I'm going to allow you to put your hand up, and then I will have you on if you have a question or a comment. And also remember, there's a lot of videos that are already on YouTube that you'll be able to, and we're going to ask one question at a time. We see Sam who's here first. Sam, I one question. I'm going to get one question because we want to go through so everybody can ask.
Hi,
So
good
Sam,
evening. Yeah,
good
man.
evening,
Hi, good
Sam.
evening. Yeah, man. You mentioned about using bitter foods to help with the liver. We have been told a couple of times that drinking sorosate too many times per week can be dangerous. How many times per week can we use bitter stuff, whether it be sorosate or neem or any other bitter food?
All right, very good question. Because guess what now? Herbs fall under different categories of potency. So at the lowest is what we call nutritional herbs, which are herbs like callaloo, herbs like celery, herbs that you can eat a lot of in a green form and it doesn't affect the liver. There are herbs though that are more, and even some of the herbs that are nutritional herbs, if they pass a certain stage of maturity, they become more medicinal, right? And so what happens is that it may affect the liver. So cerci, neem, guinea hen are some herbs that are very powerful herbs. The number one rule is that for medicinal herbs, you don't want to use them in a green state. Even for cerci, if you use cerci dry, you know, it's not bad. If you use cerci green, because it puts so much work on the liver, it can actually damage the liver. All right. So the first thing is that, and that's why we tell persons that, you know, don't just go out there and use her. Anything that can help you equally can harm. So be guided. But for cerci, and there are some exceptions. One of the exceptions is that for cerci, you can use, you can take it for a week, but never go over a month. Never go over a month of taking any herb, any at all. Doesn't matter how good it is. Because a herb is really designed to stimulate the body to produce what you're getting from your herb naturally. And so what happens is that if you take a herb for an extended or for a protracted period of time, then what you're telling your body is that you don't have to produce this because it is being produced for you, right? So you don't want to do that. So up to a month you can take it, but there are exceptions.
Okay, I see Carol on. So Carol, you can unmute. Thanks,
Okay,
Carol.
all right. So I want to know if the doctor sees persons with autoimmune issues.
Oh yes, yeah, man. We do see persons with autoimmune for lupus and leaky gut and Crohn's disease. All of those we do.
So we'll put the link, I mean, in the chat
link,
and also
okay.
so you can how to get in touch with Doc, right?
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Carol. I see, is it Risha? Risha? I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it. You can lower your hand and you can.
Risha.
Risha.
Yeah.
Thanks, darling. I'm horrible.
It's okay. I'm curious about what these bitter foods are, and then also what foods you suggest for eczema.
Right, so eczema most of the time is when we see most issues on the skin, most issues on the skin is indicative of what's happening in the blood. All right. So the first thing we do is to look at the blood and purifying the blood and avoiding certain foods that would further add acidity to the body. Because again, one thing we tell persons is that one thing we've been taught is that a disease is a bad thing. I don't teach that. But I teach that diseases are good. Diseases are not bad. Diseases are not good because, and there's natural diseases, because what it's doing is telling you what's happening. You know, if you have an indicator light in your vehicle, it's better to have an indicator light than for the radiator to just overheat and blow you up. All right. But if you have was it eczema? Then one of the first things is that there are certain foods that you shouldn't avoid. Foods that are high in mucus that encourage your body to stimulate mucus. You want to avoid those foods like dairy and so on and so forth. Another thing I want to make note is that most persons, when they're sick, the natural response is, what do I need to take? Right. In a lot of cases, it's what do I need to get rid of? Right. Because we didn't have these diseases without certain lifestyles. So sometimes a lot of persons want to take something to support a bad habit. Okay. So I tell persons that your disease is not your enemy, your habit is your enemy. All right. So if you want to be frustrated and mad at something, because if we were as mad and if we were afraid of our habits as we were of our diseases, we would be better off. But so you want to avoid those foods that are acidic and those foods that are high mucus forming foods, and you want to get foods that have more water, watermelon, cantaloupes, and so on. And then you want to get foods that are purgatives, herbs like rice bitters, herbs like neems, herbs like those. But a lot of times, taking those herbs and continuing the same lifestyle will not give you the results that you want. I also want to talk about the importance of fasting. Almost any herbalist will tell you that in order to have good health, you need to have days in which you don't eat. You know, herbalists like Dr. Sebi will talk about herbs, and he will talk about cleansing. But what most people don't realize is that the benefits that he gets is because he also does a lot of fasting. So I would say to us, because a lot of times our digestive system and most illnesses, most sicknesses are rooted in our digestive system. Some of it sometimes because of parasites, sometimes because of acids. But I said to persons that including or adding intermittent fasting or some form of fasting regimen in your lifestyle will greatly improve. You know, when I see persons who are, I don't use the word ministers, because a lot of persons who do a lot of fasting, when I put them on the machine, I know, even if they have other ailments, you know, because fasting does something to the body. When you fast, one of the things that it does is that it puts your immune system in overdrive. Many people are sick because they have a very sluggish immune system. So you see, for example, the madmen.
Right.
Yeah, they have a very robust immune system. Exactly. Right. I tell persons that sometimes some of us are too clean. Yeah. If you look at a child who lives in the country or a person who lives in the country versus somebody who lives in the town where it is more sterile environment, you'll find a child who is exposed to more dirt, who is exposed to more this. And I know that's difficult for a lot of mothers, but a lot of persons are sick because their immune system is too sluggish. Now, there are a number of ways that you can get your immune system to be to get robust. There are some persons who, there are some countries where people actually eat dirt.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There are certain we use a sauna. When a person goes into, whenever the body is made to do things, it's made to heal itself and it's made to protect itself. So if, for example, when you're going to fast and the body senses any type of what they would call stress, the body's immune system becomes activated.
Right.
So what happens is that a lot of times, because we're in a sterile environment, we don't have to fight a lot of the bacteria and the diseases. Our immune system goes into a dormant state.
Right.
Yeah, and we talk about boosting the immune system, but boosting the immune system is not just by foods. If you're boosting your immune system and your immune system never gets a chance to practice, it's like a soldier during theory and never going on the field. Right? So there are things, when we were young in the country, we would go to the bush and we would just pick mangoes. Sometimes, and we just eat. We'd go to the river. We would interface with so many bacteria, so many pathogens, so many antigens that our immune system would just be robust. So I tell persons, spend some time in the wild, spend some time coming out of your sterile environment. Doing a sauna is actually a very good way of boosting the immune system. So one of the therapies that we do, for example, is we'll put you in a sauna depending on this. A sauna is not for everybody. Again, for persons who have high blood pressure problem, it's not for everybody. You have to consult your healthcare provider. But for some of the persons who come to us, we put them in a sauna, and then those foods now that boost the immune system, right after coming out of the sauna, we give them that. And what we find is that you've boosted the immune system, and then you've taken the raw material and you've given it to the body. So now you have a boosted immune system who gets raw material and is ready to work.
Excellent.
Ready to work.
All right. Is that helpful? Russia, is that helpful? That answered your question, right?
Yes, it does. It does.
Okay.
Thanks.
I see, Nzinga, you had your hands up next. You can unmute. Are you live?
Hi, yes.
You want to
Here I
unmute?
am.
I see your hands up.
Yes, Nzinga. So I have a question. It's about glutathione and how that works. Where can we get it naturally? And I understand, please correct me, your body produces it, but not in enough quantities.
Yes,
so
as you get older, it produces far less.
Yes. So how can we boost that? And how can we make sure that we're getting the optimal levels to help our immune system?
Yeah, I said to persons that it goes back to the liver again. Of course, you can get glutathione supplements, from most health food stores, but the body produces it, and the body would produce it in the right level. One of the reasons why the body is not producing it sometimes is because of the liver not being stimulated. I actually recommend doing a liver at least 3 times per year. And for persons, yes, a liver cleanse at least 3 times per year, because what it does is that it gets the congestion out. Here's how the body works, because the natural medicine is very simple. It's very simple, and I'm going to talk about even the plants. Everything in life is coded. Herbs, everything is not difficult at all. One thing I want to do is I want to maybe do a herb walk where I can teach about 45,000 different plants over a weekend. Because the 45,000 of the most used medicinal plants only fall under about 8 families. 45,000 of the most used medicinal plants around the world only fall under about 8 families. And so if you understand the patterns and the principles, you can identify these plants even without knowing the names.
Right.
Even without knowing the names.
You know the functions.
Right, because you know the patterns to look for and the functions of those patterns. So you're able to use herbs without even knowing the name, because our ancestors didn't know herbs by names and new herbs by function. Only modern science spends as much time teaching, they're teaching all that, you know. But going back to your question, ensuring that you have a functional liver is one of the best ways to get your glutathione levels in what it should be. Because remember that the body heals itself. One of the fundamental of medicine, the body heals itself. Most time we're not getting certain minerals, and most time healing is not taking place. It's either blockages or imbalances. Blockages or imbalances. And so through lifestyle adjustment and of course through herbs, these blockages and these imbalances can be corrected, especially for women. Let me just talk about one ailment, because when I just started out, I worked a lot with women. I worked a lot with women that had fibroids. Now, when I worked a lot with women that had fibroids, I found out that most of my women that had fibroids were either teachers, they were nurses, they were accountants, and they were igglers. You know what I'm saying? Nurses, teachers, accountants, igglers, and police are security officers. And I'm saying, you know, what's the correlation? And what I found out is that a lot of these women, they don't get a lot of sleep.
The sleep, yep.
Yeah, they don't get a lot of sleep. Yes, because sleeping is synonymous to healing. And so I had one client in Portmore who did everything to regulate her weight, and she couldn't do it. And when I put her on the machine, I said, it seems as if you're sleeping in the light. And she said, yes, I can't sleep without the light. And I spoke to her, and she stopped sleeping in the light, and she was able to lose weight. Because sleeping in the light can mess up your because there are certain hormones that the body only produces in dark. It only can produce it in dark. That is the reason why the body heals during the night. We are very similar to plants, you know. Just like how the plants goes to bed at night, our closest, we also are tied to the plants. When the Creator made us, the minerals that we need from the soil, because we couldn't get it directly from the soil, plants are intermediaries. So we are very related, very related to soil. And I believe he made us that way so that we would have more respect for plants. We would see our need to depend on plants. So glutathione, which is a hormone that helps us to stay healthy, it diminishes in its amount as we get older. And it diminishes when the liver is not functioning properly.
Okay. So you see a lot of the things that have kind of been designed for us now, we need to really actually individually go back and look at how we're living our life, how we're interacting with the plants and around us, and even, you know, staying up and having access to all these different technologies, and we're on YouTube and we're on Netflix and all these things. When we're supposed to be sleeping, exactly, because we're not healing and stuff, and then later on now we're wondering what's going on. And Zia, you look like you had another question?
Yes, so I was just going to confirm my thought based on what Doc said. So does that mean that going to the bitters and doing the flushes, that will help raise or to improve the glutathione levels in my body? I'm a cancer survivor, so I'm just always looking at ways to maintain the balance in my body.
Yeah, guaranteed. Once you start to increase, and as I said, I would encourage every single person, especially if you're over 40, begin to introduce more bitters in your diet. And you'll find that what the Creator has done again is that he put some of the most powerful medicines in the forms of bitters.
Okay.
So I recommend 2 to 3 times per week, try to consume something bitter. And do it on an empty stomach. Do it on an empty stomach.
Okay. I have one more question about schizophrenia.
Okay, ask me.
Yes, I just recently met a young man. He's in his early 20s, and he actually came to the market looking for support and help with, he's just realized that he's becoming schizophrenic. And so in talking to him, I was really eager to find some way to assist him. And you coming on this Sunday was like the perfect opportunity. So I would love to be able to share some herbal ways for him to kind of navigate through this experience that he's having? Please.
All right. So for mental illness, most of it is rooted in chemical imbalances, and there are certain herbs that help to balances the brain. From America, they have herbs like kava, St. John's wort, those herbs. Here in Jamaica, we have herbs like the Jamaican dogwood bark that really helps. CBD, our local, and you have to be careful with using that. But we've had very good experience using CBD oil to help correct those issues along with bipolar disorders. All right. So but I'd love to, because I always like to not generalize. I would like to maybe talk to you some more to find out, to get some more specific as it relates to him, to better guide you as to the way forward with him.
Oh, thank you so much. That would really be appreciated.
All right.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I want to look at some of the plants. I mean, we have some here. You guys can, if you're on, you can see some of the things. We have the vervain, which is interesting because the other day I saw a truckload of vervain leave the parish, leaving St. Thomas. And I guess they're, we know that it's a immune booster. So we see a lot of, seeing a lot of that. And of course, everybody's the Spanish needle around, and they're always reading it out. And I also have, this is what, strongback. And I think we have also some purslane. So you want to talk about any one of these that I just pulled up?
Let's talk about the vervain. Most persons in Jamaica call this a woman's herb, but vervain has so many benefits. There's a purple vervain, there's a white vervain. This part of the vervain alone, if you look at it carefully, it looks kind of like a snake or a worm. So it's what we call a vermifuge. A lot of people, a lot of persons use this to treat worm. But it's excellent for women with menstrual issues. It helps to increase blood flow to the pelvic area for women. So it's very good for cleansing the womb. It's also very good for belly ache, that type of stuff. So this is a herb that's also antibacterial, it's anti-parasitic. So it's good for a number of parasite and bacteria and even virus-related infection. So with that alone, to list the benefits, it's so numerous. What we look at is the properties, and then once you understand the property of the herb, then you can better know how to apply that and how to combine that with other herbs. So this is excellent. So we hear about persons talking about it for viral infection, bacterial infection. We use it in one of the formulation that we use for cleansing the womb tonic. About 50 years ago, 60 years ago, this herb was well known by women because back then women would have children at home delivery, and the midwives, after giving birth, they would get a formulation of this herb, along with a herb called dog blood, rice bitters, and periwinkle, and they would give this to the woman because back then when a woman had baby, she wouldn't come outside. She would have to be locked up inside, for fear of getting a baby cold. And she would take this, and it would help to expel any remaining placenta. But what it would also do is that once you clean the womb, it increases fertility.
Oh, right. So there she go again.
So it would account for a lot of the women who, when they went to clinic, they would go to clinic being pregnant.
Yeah.
So this is something that if you're going to take it, you have to be very careful if you don't want to get pregnant. So this is vervain. This is a herb. It's again in teaching plants that are square stem, opposite leaves. So this is a herb from the mint family. It's very high in iron, so the rabbits love it a lot because it helps with iron and building the blood. Then it helps with sexual potency. But it's very good for building the blood. So for persons who are low in iron, this is one of the best herbs to go to. This herb is actually a vegetable also, because one thing I promote is what I call alkaline indigenous plants, alkaline indigenous vegetable. And since this is a farming group, one thing I really would like to see more is the incorporation of many of these alkaline herbs. They're not grown in a controlled environment. And so because of that, their DNA structure has not been altered by pesticides or any form of chemical. And so they're very alkaline, meaning that they're very high in oxygen. And so when you eat these, this is a herb that when it's younger, now it can't be eaten, it's more medicinal. So as the plant gets older and certain chemicals increase in the amount, it becomes more nutraceutical than it is nutritional. So when it is younger, it's an excellent vegetable. And even as it relates to food security, I believe we need to start encouraging these herbs. This is not a herb that you would want to promote for persons with high blood pressure, of course. It's good for belly ache. And nothing that they'll say about Jamaica, most herb is good for cold. Well, the reason for that is because most alkaline vegetables, what they do is that they pull mucus out of the cells. So most plants will help with the removal of mucus because it's alkaline and it has oxygen and it has minerals that go into the cells to push out what is in the cells. So if your cells have a lot of mucus, then of course you're going to push out that mucus. In Jamaica, we call it cold, which is why in Jamaica, they laugh and say, in Jamaica, nearly everything good for cold, every bush good for cold. So scientifically, it goes like that. But this plant is also on the lesser side of being antibacterial, anti-parasitic, but it does carry those properties as well. So it's good for a list of ailments along that line. But for most persons, it's taken as an iron supplement.
Okay.
Yeah, for most persons.
It's that Spanish needle.
Yeah,
Yes,
Spanish
it's
needle. This one, I want to talk about this one because this one is porcelain. Porcelain is also a very good source of iron. The seeds of the porcelain, which is this, some seeds on it, are very good for the urinary tract system as well. For persons who are having blood in their urine, a lot of persons come to us and they do, especially farm work. They do the farm work and they say, boy, doc, we're going to do the farm work and come back and they say, boy, blood in my urine. Not visible, but the blood test will say it. Well, the seeds from this herb will clear up that blood in the urine. This is one of the herbs that will do that. It's also it's a mucilaginous plant. All mucilaginous herbs that contain lots of mucilage or slime, is very good for the stomach as well. So it's also a vegetable that I believe should be marketed. Yeah. It's one of those herbs that help with boosting the immune system. It's also excellent in fighting various forms of cancer. And so this is a herb. This is a green one. There's a red one that is very good for persons who are diabetic, who need to increase their iron. This is a very good herb for doing that. I had a client that had cancer. He came to me, even his finger everywhere was yellow. He was diabetic, and I gave him this plant, and you can juice it, you can eat it raw. When you eat it, it's slightly salt and sour, and that is because of the minerals that are in it that helps to boost the immune system. So it's very good.
It's something that we started to sell at the farmers market because we had so much of it again on the farm. So then we researched it. As a matter of fact, it was Lori, I think, that researched it, and we started selling it. And then it was interesting. There were certain customers that would come in.
Chinese or Indians?
There was actually Chinese and also Lebanese, and they had to have it every single week. We have to find it from wherever because it's something that's really part of their diets. And so, yes, it was a popular to introduce more and more people So they were saying in it, it's like high omega-3.
Yes,
And
so,
then
yeah, good for the heart.
Right.
So, and I was saying, back in Montego Bay, I remember I was in Montego Bay doing a YouTube video on a herb called bitter melon. Went to the market, and when I went to the market, I noticed that there's a particular higgler. Now listen to this, guys. There's a particular higgler in Montego Bay who has no competition. He has no competition. When I was doing the bitter melon video, I went to him, and I noticed the reason why he has no competition is that his customers are Chinese and Indians. What he sells, nobody else buys it but Chinese and Indians. And what you find is these were the foods that he would sell.
Right.
And I said to persons, it's sad, I don't know about most places, but in Jamaica, we don't eat from the same place. When you go to the hospitals here or the health centers, you don't find a lot of Chinese or Indians there. Yeah. And one of the reasons for that is because of how they eat.
Right.
In Kingston, there are select supermarkets, there are select places in Kingston that sell food for certain minority groups. And what you find is that most of the foods that we get are devitalized foods. So I'm saying to persons, we need to start to encourage our people to begin to eat more of these foods. So I would have loved if coming on this webinar, one of the things I would love to see coming out of this is a project of identifying a certain amount of certain alkaline vegetables and beginning to promoting those.
Yes.
Yes. So when we talk about it now, we can say, okay, go to that particular farmer's market and you can get these vegetables. One of the beauty about these vegetables is that because they are alkaline and because they are natural, they don't need fertilizers. They don't need chemicals. And insects don't trouble them.
Right.
Insects don't trouble these plants. You won't see, look at this Spanish needle, look at the leaves. They're not eaten up by insects. Insects don't trouble them. Look at the vervain. And if you plant one of our commercial vegetables, you can't do that for the most part. Insects love it. There's a reason. All right. And then one more. Let's look at it. We call this flatbush, sorry, because it grows the seed pods on it are once you get close to it, they're attached to you. But this is one of the variety of what we call strongback. So this is actually an aphrodisiac. It's used a lot by herbalists. It's used for men. Again, we don't recommend it for men who have high blood pressure problem. This is something that it tastes good, doesn't taste bad. But there's two variety of them. There's another one where the leaves are smaller and they're rounder. It's stronger than this variety, but this one nonetheless will definitely help to boost sex drive in men.
All right. The question you can unmute.
Hi. Read the previous plant before. Porcelain.
Yeah.
Yes, you're saying you could use the seed, or you use the seed.
You would just crush the seeds. The seeds, just crush the seeds, and you can just pour hot water on it and just consume it, or you can just eat it.
Okay. Oh, and the next question, you said that one is a green variety. You said there's
there's a red one.
Yeah,
There's a red variety.
When you say it is red, is it that the stem is red?
The whole stem is red.
Okay,
all
that's
of it is red, and it's a lot more potent than this one.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So thanks, Kingsley. I know that Kingsley is one of our good farmers out there. And I know, Kingsley, you're seeing some of these things that I just pulled out of my garden in the field. So now that you have a little bit more understanding of them, you can utilize them better and actually start incorporating them in your diet, or even for obviously for the farmers market for sale, and not just to think everything that we have to do is this cash crop thing that they've been pushing, but making your plants and your medicine as well.
Yeah, and not only that, but niche. Think niche.
Right.
I spoke about the Igla in Montego that has no competition. he targets first. I mean, he can leave his stall. Nobody will steal from him. A lot of time when you farm something that everybody wants, you are creating a foundation for pretty and larceny.
Right.
So a lot of times we have to, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I say value is in the eye of the beholder. Sometimes we need to create education to create products.
Right.
Because if you go to the farmer's market the first week, I don't expect you to sell these. But if you went with some pamphlets and some literatures on the benefits, then each week you would see your clientele growing. You would see your clientele increasing. So rather than sometimes competing with the man over there that have that, you create a market for yourself by creating a value and creating awareness at the same time. There are other herbs like there's fat and barrow, there's jokoto. There's so many so many alkaline herbs that if you give it to persons, the benefit far outweigh those that we grow. Because you know what's happening? A lot of the persons who get seeds from these agencies, what they're doing is that they're now moving to patent their seeds. Because what they have done is that they have introduced to us, they have defined foods, they have introduced foods, they have colonized us. Know that they have colonized us, they are patenting, which means that if you're not willing to partner with them, then you won't be able to get what they have. The danger in that is that if you don't know any other food source, then you are vulnerable. And so what I'm saying to us is that we need to understand that there is a vast array of alkaline, far better nutritious, far better, superior, beneficial vegetables out there than what we get when we go into the farm stores.
Okay, heard it. There's a lot of opportunity here, guys. I see Sam, you have your hand up again for another question. We can unmute.
Yeah,
Or
man. Two quick questions.
Steve? Yeah.
Yeah, man. You mentioned that it's best to use some of the herbs dried. As it relates to making teas, does the heat destroy the enzymes and the phytonutrients, or is not an issue? And secondly, if you combine the herbs with honey under room temperature, will we get the same benefits that are transferred from the herbs to the honey? Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the first one. The heat, will the heat destroy? Of course, heat destroys enzyme, which is why even if you're drying herbs, you don't dry them in the direct exposure to the heat. You dry them away from light. Two things that destroys herb is not only heat, sunlight. The ultraviolet rays destroys the medicine in a plant. So even for dried herbs, you're always told to keep them in a dark area away from sunlight. And so that is the reason why when you're going to consume dried herbs, you are told not to boil it. You are told to steep it, which is to add hot water to the herbal, to the dried herbs for the heat to extract the medicines from it. All right, so honey, second question, honey basically improves circulation. Honey is one of those compounds that help to move nutrients around the body. So if you take a herb without any honey, yes, you're gonna get it, but we call it synergistic. They are just like we have certain herbs that can help improve the effectiveness of other herbs, which means that that herb has a synergistic property. One of those herbs is ginger. So almost every formulation benefits from adding ginger. Almost every herbal formulation benefits from ginger because ginger works similar to how honey works by helping with circulation. Another herb is cayenne pepper, even a small amount. And almost any formulation benefits from the addition of cayenne pepper because it helps with circulation. All right. So using any one of those three, assistants will help with getting the medicine moving around the body.
So
Thank you.
So for me now, when I look at in terms of how we are farming and planting things, it just makes us really be more we used to sell at the farmers market, but I don't see anybody with it, or even the, which is you're finding less and less of it, the bird pepper.
Which is right, because
some of those
Mhm.
So we need to be looking at.
You're chipping out, Nicole. I'm not hearing you.
I'm saying that we need to be looking at some of the things like cayenne pepper or the bird pepper, some of those things that we normally would see. I'm not seeing them anymore. We used to sell them in the market. I don't see not many people having it. We're losing those varieties. And even the ginger, we're not, we're issues with ginger, that kind of stuff. Do you see how important these things that we're growing is to us in terms of the health? Because we've been just eating just because people put things in front of us, but we're not eating to make sure that this body, that this machine that we have, this body that our soul sits in, is actually going to function properly. And then we wonder, when we get to be 40, 50, whatever, we start having issues because it can take so much, like we take better care of our cars, right? Than we do of our body. So I wanted everybody to kind of start to think about that.
If you want to know why it's called a bird pepper, though?
No, because of birds, some of the birds.
All right. Birds fly.
Oh.
Right? Which means that for a bird to fly, their circulatory system has to be up. If a bird flapping their wings at how many minutes per second, if they were having a circulatory problem, then they wouldn't be able to fly, which is what happened to our chickens that we eat.
Right.
Yeah. So whenever a bird has problems with their health, what the bird does is that the bird would find that pepper and the bird would eat it, and it would help to boost their circulation, because for them, circulation is pivotal in being able to fly.
And that makes sense, because when you look at how the migratory birds, because pepper, from what I understand, is a New World food, usually found here.
Yes.
And you look at the migration of the birds.
Yeah, and so that is the reason why, again, for persons who are having arthritis problems, circulatory problem, if you take a bird pepper and look at it, it pretty much looks like your heart. Because again, nature communicates to us. Plant has what is called, they call it a plant signature, right? So I tell persons, for example, most herbs, most if not all, not all, but most herbs that grow on rocks are vines. Most herbs are good for your nervous system. Right? So you talk about your saucy pearl, your chain root, they grow in rocks. And most herbs that, for example, grow a red flower, it's good for your blood. Most herbs that grow a yellow flower is good for your urinary tract system. So plants have signature. There are other, and we talk about teaching medicine, forget about learning plants by their names. What we need to do is to learn plants by their functionality. Because if you knew, for example, that nearly all plants that grow a yellow flower is good for your urinary tract system, then, if you had a urinary tract problem, you talk about the Mimosa pudica, you talk about the Chancapedra, the seed palm bat, you talk about the Ramgoat dashalon, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Almost all plants that produce a yellow flower is good for your urinary tract system. Almost all plants that grow a red flower, the sorrel, the hibiscus, all of these plants, ginger, all of these plants are good for your blood. So if you look at ginger produces a red flower. All plants that grow in rocks or that grow in that are vines are good for your nerves and are good for your skeleton, your veins. Right? So nature carries certain signature that when you begin to pay attention, it is telling you what it is useful for. Most plants that produce a sap. Most plants that produce a sap. The sap is a latex, and that sap basically has what is called proteolytic properties. So you can use it to dissolve warts. If you have a wart, you can put the salve on the wart, and it will gradually dissolve it. Don't use it too much though. And we use those same herbs to dissolve tumors. For persons who have breast tumors and cancers, we can make salves. We can put it on the tumor, and it miraculously eats only the bad cells and leaves the good cells.
A whole world of knowledge here for guys. I'm hoping you're listening and taking notes, and hopefully it is taping so we can definitely share this one. I see there's Marilyn. Marilyn is on. Marilyn, you can unmute and ask your question.
Hi, good night. Well, it's actually Maran's wife, Alyssa.
Okay.
That's all right. I know you mentioned, I'm from Trinidad. I know you mentioned bitter foods. So we have things like Coralie, aloes, that type of thing. And we're just about 40, 3 little ones. So I just wanted to have a clearer idea as to what type of bitter foods we should engage in. One thing though is I'm still breastfeeding a little baby. So I don't know what is available, and then, you know, issues with high blood pressure and asthma. So I don't know what. Can we contact you as well?
So you want to know what bitter foods to eat? You want to know what bitter foods to eat?
Yes, sir.
All right, so cerasee is also a vegetable. I should let you know that cerasee is also a vegetable when it's young. Remember, a lot of nutraceutical herbs, and they're nutraceutical because they have a thing called alkaloids. And alkaloids, basically, when the plant has a lot of alkaloids in its green form, it's dangerous for the liver. So when you dry it out, a lot of the alkaloids evaporates out of the plant, making it less alkaloid. So the plant goes back to like when it was younger. When it was younger, it has less alkaloid, so you can eat it green. So cerasee can be eaten green. There is we should have one. You know, we should have one. There's so many that can be eaten green. When you're breastfeeding, though, you want to be careful. I don't recommend consuming too much nutraceutical herbs when you're breastfeeding, because a lot of that goes back into no, it's not, it's cerasee, C-E-R-A-S-E-E, cerasee. All right, Mamardica tarantra, I think is a scientific name. But you don't want to eat too many nutraceutical herbs when you're breastfeeding. Stick to the more culinary herbs that are less alkaloids because of the purpose of breastfeeding. But you have herbs like rice bitters, which is very good. You have herbs like neem, which is very good. You have herbs like king of the forest. You know, so many herbs out there that you have. There's one called majo bitter, which is an excellent. Somebody spoke about herb for purging the blood. This is one of the most powerful herbs out there for cleansing the blood. Majo was actually named after a slave. That basically the slave master found that he was able to use it to treat syphilis. So he ran away and he was whipped. A lot of the herbs that the slaves knew was because when they were beaten, for example, they would use these herbs to heal their wound. A lot of the slaves, when they got pregnant and the slave master, a lot of them didn't want to carry babies for their slave master. So they would use herbs like cotton. The root of the cotton tree is a very powerful uterine, and it is used, it was used by the slaves for the purpose of abortion. So when they got pregnant and they didn't want to carry the baby, they would use herbs like those. And those herbs are very good for menstrual problems, for ovarian cysts, that type of thing. Herbs like, we call it bitter wood. That's another herb that's also very good for diabetes and, you know, a number of issues like that. These are very bitter herbs, by the way. Very bitter herbs, but they are very good.
All right. One more question, and then I want to bring something else. Yes.
Quick question. The sap, like when you cut like a plum tree, the sap from it, does that have any benefits?
Oh yes, the gum. What they call it, latex. It's called the gum. Right. The gum can also be collected because the medicine is really in the gum. So if you take that gum and put it in hot water, like if you get a hot cup of tea and drop it in there, it will just melt right out. Has medicine. It's an excellent way of storing medicine. Some persons would actually go around and bruise a tree, chop the tree, wait for it to produce that resin, as it is sometimes called gum, right. And they would collect it and put it away. I'm doing some work now in some maroon territory, for example, and there's a herb that grows up there called it's called boar gum. But you know, it's not actually boar gum, it's actually boar gum. And the reason why it's called boar gum, and listen to this, boar gum is a tree that grows, it doesn't grow where people live. So you wouldn't know this. As a matter of fact, I've only seen the young tree. You have to grow far up in the woods. But in the hills of St. Thomas, there are wild boars. And these boars, when they were being hunted, and when they were injured, if that boar escapes, that boar would go right through the forest and search for that one tree. If that boar lives and finds that tree and eat that gum, that boar ain't dying. And so even the hunters found the tree, not the tree, nearly everybody in that particular area who is a hunter has the boar gum at their home. Because they will tell you that if you were injured with a splinter or anything, if you just warm that boar gum and put it on it, it pulls it right up. Anywhere in the body where you have, if you have a cut that we would stitch, if you just put it together like this and put the boar gum on it and put a bandage on it, it heals in 3 days' time.
Okay.
All here in Jamaica. And a lot of these herbs are not known by the regular herbalists because you only know what you're exposed to at the elevation that you are in terms of topography. There are certain herbs that only grow where no humans don't frequent. You have herbs like, for example, even wild cinnamon. Wild cinnamon doesn't grow where people inhabit. There's no, I've never seen that tree, wild cinnamon tree.
You know, like one of the, it's so important, like one of our permaculture principles, you know, even for us, we only habitate a certain amount of land. Say we're on our source farm, so, and the rest of the land is left in nature. So we can go to nature and learn from it. Or sometimes there's things and medicines that are there, but if you're constantly interacting with the place and building up everything all over the place, then you're damaging, you don't even know what you know, being able to learn from it later on. You think you know everything, and then the medicines are right there. I see there's Felicia on that's next. You have a question?
Yes, my dearie. What herbs did you say were good for tumors, to put on tumors?
For tumors, I was talking about foods that are from the cabbage family, pretty much are good for tumors. But I was talking about localized tumors. I was talking about certain plants that we call, that have what is called a proteolytic enzyme, even papaya. If you get the papaya, the green papaya, and if you had like a localized tumor, there are certain herbs that you can add to it, like pork root. It's called pork root medicinally, but in Jamaica it's called jokoto. I don't know how many of you know jokoto, but jokoto basically is a very powerful root herb in its mature state. Jokoto, the berry from the jokoto was what was used to write the American Constitution. So it's a very powerful root herb. And if you take those herbs like green papaya, if you put that on any cancerous tumor, it will eat the flesh, eat off all the dead flesh, eat off all the flesh. Whether if it's dead flesh, it will eat it off. It will prevent the buildup of dead flesh. But there are some other herbs now that you can combine with that can literally perform a surgery, that can go in and do the work. And I've done a couple of videos of persons that I've worked with removing tumors. I think there's even one that I have that I've put up on YouTube, but I've not made it public because I don't want, you know, that all that attention. But what I want to do is just to let people know that there are herbs out there that can literally do surgery.
Yeah. So I was in a conversation the other day, and you said the way that you, because a lot of times people come to you and they think it's you doing the work, and you want people to understand this is really their body and the plants doing the work. And I think that's one of the things that we want to do, is to have more conversations, not just conversations, but workshops with you. So that really before you, because people come in and they have an issue and they want to come and rush and say, all right, because they're using that Western thought process of you giving me a pill and that pill is going to be do that work for me in that
you know, in a particular time, but it's a, as you say, it's a lifestyle, a process change that needs to happen. But I think it's also important to make sure that people have access to the information. And I'm really hoping that I know that you love to share information, and we can start to have some workshops and classes to really, as you said, you know, as you and I have agreed, we want a herbalist in every family and a master herbalist in every community, because we got to take back our sovereignty in a sense, because we're giving it away to everybody else, and they're dictating what is going to be good for our immune system, versus we supposed to be able to know how this body functions and that kind of stuff. So I would love, you know, I'm sure the group is going to be hounding me to try to set up some ways, sometimes some workshops or some things where you can actually start sharing that, because when you come to doc and he does the machine and he does the testing and he gives you a remedy. But what happens after that? If you don't understand how your body works, then you're just going to go right back to that same old pattern of what you're doing and not really making the change that you need. And Ezekiel, you have a question, and then we're going to be, we've kept Doc for quite a while. So we're going to have any last question. But Ezekiel, you have a question for Doc?
Yes, definitely. I would second what you were saying about having regular workshops, and, you know, if there's a price attached, I think that's, you know, it would be well worth it. Learned so much today, Doc. Thank you so much. My question is fasting. What type of typical regime would you suggest?
All right. Oh my God. You know, it's almost as if you're taking me down the road to do a workshop. Because one of the first thing I teach is the body has a rhythm, and there's a particular way that we eat. So, for example, in the morning, we wake up, we automatically wake up in a fast, right? So I recommend doing at least 2 days per week, 2 to 3 days per week, every other day. Here's what I recommend now. So when you're doing the fasting, you would get up in the morning, you would drink a glass of alkaline water. And after you drink a glass of alkaline water, what I recommend is drinking teas that help in the elimination process. So the body goes through a cycle. So the first cycle that the body goes through is what we call the healing cycle. So from about sunset to about midnight, the liver begins to produce bile, and the body goes through a healing process. That's why it's important to sleep in the dark. And then from about 12:01 to about sunrise, then the body goes into a cleansing process. So the minute you get up, from all the work that the body did, waste would have been produced. That waste needs to be eliminated. So the concept of waking up to a breakfast is not healthy. The minute you eat something, you would have disrupted the body's natural elimination process to go in, to force the body to go into absorption. Because the body works with the sun. When the sun is rising, the body, one of the reasons I tell them not to eat at night is because outside of the sun, which gives us energy to metabolize and to utilize what we're eating, the body works harder. The body works more much more harder. So what you want to do is not go against the body's natural rhythm. You want to go with the body's natural rhythm. So when you get up in the morning, the body is in its natural process. That's the reason we brush our mouth. You stick out your tongue in the morning, your tongue is coated with waste. You want to go to the bathroom to do number 1 and number 2. So what you want to do is you want to drink water to help that process. You want to drink teas that help that process. And what you'll find is that if you drink certain teas that aid circulation and elimination and drink water, you won't be hungry until around about 11 o'clock. Around about 11 o'clock is close to when the sun in its prime, which is when the body absorbs best. So that is when you want to give food, put food in the body. You want to put food in the body at the time of the day when it's best for the body to utilize that food, which is around about 11 to about 3. And so in fasting, what I recommend is that if you're gonna fast, then what you need to do is you can drink water, you can drink teas that will help with that elimination process. And you can do that 2 to 3 days per week. So one of the things that we are doing is we are disrupting the natural flow of the body. When the body should be eliminated, we interrupt that elimination and force the body to digest foods at a time when our body is at its weakest, the sun is at its lowest. Because remember, we are solar beings. That's why we have a soul. The word soul, solar. We are solar generated beings. And so one thing that we have to do is that we have to understand that we have to work in tandem with the sun.
We get that, guys? All right. That totally shifts. So now we understand why we're in disease and we're in dysfunction. Having all of that is because we have been trained and programmed to go against the natural rhythms of things. And that is something when you look at the design. And a lot of this is coming out of this system that they have, a European system of wanting you to come to work. And so you get up at this time and you do this thing and you do all these things, but it's really against our natural rhythms. And then you wonder why we're having all these issues. And they know because they also make money off of creating that these habitats for these things to go against. So if we can get back our natural rhythms, right? And reorganize. And what is so beautiful about this, you know, this COVID thing came up, and remember they used to say that we have to be at work at a certain time and have to, all of a sudden it threw everything up in the air. And what we need to do is to take a look at everything, and we now have to reclaim ourselves and have to reorganize our lives that would make sense. So a lot of times we're having meetings, we're doing this and we're having all these different things. We go back now to the drawing board and say, all right, wipe the slates clean. How do we start to work in a more harmonious way with nature instead of against it?
And when we do our retreats, that's what we do. So people will come to and we have some retreat videos, a number of retreat videos on our YouTube channel. We have a retreat facility now where there are persons who actually tell people that I'm a man, that I'm a witch doctor or something like that. In some of the clinics that I do have people calling me from all over the world, India and from Africa, a lot of calls from Africa and the Caribbean, because they think that the fact that we've helped people with so many ailments, they say that it couldn't be just herbs. I must be working with something else other than herbs. You know, of course, I'm of the Hebraic faith, you know, so I do believe in prayer and so on and so forth. But I tell persons that really and truly, it's just understanding the natural flows of the body, along with the raw material. Anybody who is on this call right now, anybody, we have persons who are hypertensive, diabetic, doesn't matter what they have, doesn't matter what you have, because another thing is that the body doesn't know any disease by name. These labels only exist outside the body, you know.
Right.
So for example, when a person says, oh, you know, you can get rid of your cold, but when it comes on to the famous cancer, oh no, that's a big label. So you're telling me you can help persons with cancer? Remember, inside the body, it doesn't know any label. This doesn't exist. So everything basically is a blockage or an imbalance. And so the same thing, the same simple thing that you do to get rid of the cold, in the same way, the same simple thing you do to get rid of the cancer. It's the same thing. So these labels only restrict us and create barriers outside. They don't exist inside the body. Once you give the body, you know, if there's anything I hate about my job, it's the fact that I don't want anybody to think that I can help them, I can heal them. I tell persons that listen to me, your body heals itself. And so one thing that happens to me is that, you know, because I'm so busy, a lot of times I don't get the chance to return calls, I don't get the chance to answer all the calls. And so I hate when people feel like a number. I hate when people, but guess what? I can't help it because of my workload that happens. And so the only solution for natural medicine to be sustainable, the only solution is to teach people.
Yeah. And it is.
That's the only sustainable. A lot of persons that I work with, because I'm originally from Montego Bay, a lot of the persons that I work with, because I don't hide anything from them, a lot of them, when they get better, end up going into the practice. So for example, sure, I meet Nicola now. Nicola comes with a particular ailment, and I tell Nicola what to do and why. So Nicola gets better. And Nicola friend, I say, hey Nicola, notice you're not having that joint pain that you used to have. What happened? So well, this is what I use, and this is why. And he says, okay, tell you what, Nicola, I don't have the time. I'm gonna give you the money to get it for me. And the worst thing that you can do is to take that money. Right. Because that person who gets help is going to tell more people, and before you know it, you are sucked into it, even without bargaining for that. Right. But the only way to really make natural medicine sustainable is to share, which is even the video that I did. I think I sent it to you, right? The video that I did, I sent it to you about how to remove the tumor using herbs. I've not put that on the internet. I don't put that on the internet. I don't want them to kill me. At least yet. If I successfully showed a couple of people that it's okay for me to die, because then I would have been successful in sharing that knowledge. But I can't risk dying now without sharing that. I'm not ready yet. So but because of my work schedule, it's difficult sometimes to do the training and to do the workshops. But I definitely, even before coming to this workshop, I was thinking, how can I do a herb walk? I'd really like to show a person at least how to identify. There's a simple way of teaching herbs. I can teach you maybe over 45,000 herbs, how to identify the benefits or the uses of over 45,000 herbs in 3 days. That's simple.
We're organizing that, right, guys? We're going to organize that. We're going to do this because it makes sense at this time with everything that's going on, and even before that. I mean, we needed to know this information, and I think it's time. Nothing like the present right now to do this. So, whether
I'm going to be on your case, Nicola.
Oh no, not Sistine. This is Sistine. No, Sistine both of us have been a number of years trying to do this herb walk and this herb work. Sistine is going to make sure it happens, because what she said, she's like a Pacheri, like on a, what is that? Pacheri on a what?
Is you call me Pacheri on the junk row?
She's gonna make sure it happens. So yes, Sistine is. She's saying so it's gonna happen.
Yeah, man. There's not carve out the time, because we have a location that's way up in the Blue Mountains. Can host maybe about even here, anywhere, but we can do it. But I love the Blue Mountain because it has herbs that are not seen here.
Right. Yeah, man. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we absolutely do it.
Some powerful herbs out there.
I see one more. This is Miss Gracie. Okay, Miss Gracie, Miss Saunders.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Doctor, with COVID having such an impact in Jamaica as well as globally, what suggestions can you make that would help us to avoid or to deal with it if we get it?
Well, first of all, let me say that the impact that we're having is a manufacturing impact. And I say that without apology.
I agree.
Yes, in the pharmaceutical world, what sells medicine is not sickness, it's fear. When you create fear, you can pretty much hype anything or do anything. So the impact that we have is not as bad as it really is. Again, the body doesn't know any disease by name. So even the famous COVID, to the body is just another cold. And there are many things that you can do to boost the immune system. And we've had persons like there's a simple remedy that we used, which was basically just getting the ginger, garlic, and honey, blending it and adding that to a honey, making what is called an elixir. We were up in the hills doing a camping out, and I brought some there, and nearly everybody that had cold or flu, even babies, we just gave that to them, and it was gone. Another very good medicine is the juice from the papaya leaf. Juice from the papaya leaf. I've recommended that to many persons, even skeptics, and the result has been phenomenal. There's Artemisia, which is sweet wormwood. I talk about it in the Facebook video on that. that is maybe, if you look up that word, Artemisia, Artemisia, it is famous in traditional Chinese medicine because it is documented as being very powerful in treating, malaria, and has been useful in treating this same ailment as well. But there are many, there's vervain, which is antiparasitic, antibacterial. There's ginger. Anything that is antiparasitic, antibacterial, and natural. There are some herbs that are alkaline because they're man-made. They'll help. The better ones are the more alkaline ones. So I do recommend the alkaline one. But the acidic ones will help, just the same. But there are many. There's vitamin D that helps. So many different options that are out there. So many different options that are out there. I believe that I went to a doctor, well-known doctor, with my wife this week, and I was talking to him. And he's a health professional, and he talks about the vaccine. And when I spoke to him, he said, "Listen, I've taken it, but now I have serious concerns because even as a professional, I've been banned 6 times from just talking about stuff that helps other than the vaccine. So this has raised my red flag, So there are many stuff out there that can be used. You just have to do your homework."
Okay, Cecile, and we'll actually this will be our last question, guys. And I put in the chat Doc's contact information.
Just to get me on WhatsApp, it's very, when you reach out to me on WhatsApp, it's better for me because you can imagine I can't take all the calls, a lot of calls. If you reach out to me on WhatsApp, if you just tell me that you're on the webinar, then I can even give priority to responding to you. So it's best to do a chat message on WhatsApp.
Okay, well, my first thing is that I will reach out to you on WhatsApp for us to set a date. You like Nicola will learn that I am persistent. So
right.
Look at.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
right.
so we'll be in contact to set a date so that we can get things moving.
Okay.
My question though is COVID related. Yes, there are people who have taken one shot, one jab or the other. Are there things that those people could be doing to help their systems deal with if all of the information that is out there is to be believed? These people have set themselves up for a variety of maladies, everything from heart-related complaints, women with infertility issues. What are some of the things that people could be doing to supplement, to just deal with what's coming?
Well, what I tell persons, if you get an accident and your hand has been amputated, there's no herb that you can take to grow it back. It's just amputated. And I look at this particular compound the same way. Once you take it, it's not like any other vaccine that we've ever known. It does affect you on a genetic level. I don't know of any herb that you can take to get it out. For a woman that has removed her womb, she no longer has a natural condition. I believe that this is something that is under investigation. It's really a trial. Nobody really knows for sure how it's going to affect us, and so I don't think that there's any natural herb. I mean, it's not impossible because natural medicine has different spectrum. It has from a natural to a borderline pseudo-natural, with things that you can do through meditation and high-level stuff. But at the lower end of the spectrum, there is nothing that you can do to basically get that out of you. If it is causing specific health issues, then of course there are herbs and there are natural therapies and remedies that you can try to apply. But you have to bear in mind that the source of that ailment is no longer natural. You're using a natural approach for a root cause that wasn't natural, that is completely foreign to the body. And so that's what we have to understand. And that's why we have to be careful. And that is the reason why there has to be, I believe there should be, for those persons who want to take it, I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem when the person is not properly informed in making that decision, because certain things that you do is, you know, irreparable. You can't change it. And so there's nothing wrong with making that, but you just should just understand the risk associated.
But I don't think you can understand the risk, because I don't think the people who have made it even understand all the risks themselves. So I mean, it's an ongoing trial, literally. It's an ongoing trial, right. The adverse events, as they've so politely put, the cut, you know, what would be the equivalent of cutting off your hands. Even that is underreported. So we still don't have a full sense of all of the fallout. But I just wondered whether or not, you know, there was anything. So your response is not heartening, but I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So we have to we have to just understand the risk, and that's why I said that the body, for years, the body has been healing itself from many pandemics and many outbreaks. So I don't see why we think there's anything different, why the body couldn't have overcome this one, just to say.
Well, I don't think it's what we think. I think you need to check Bill.
Definitely.
So we have.
Let me just say one more thing before. Now, as I said, I'm based in Port Antonio, Portland, and one of the things, if you know of anybody anywhere in Portland, one of the things that is facing me now, right now as I speak, I lost a young lady. She was buried on Thursday, and I think she wasn't in my care. I didn't take up the case because the person was very poor, and the assistance that the person needed would require the person to come and stay with me. I didn't have the facility, and based on my assessment, a short stay wouldn't help her anyhow. But if there's anybody here that know of any type of facility in the Portland area that could be available to us as a retreat, like right now, because when she died, she was 14 years old, and I don't know if you know what it feels like to see a child. She was going to nursing school, saw a mother calling me constantly, persistently, doing what she could for her daughter, and literally watching her daughter dying at home. And I know that I know without a shadow of a doubt that we could help her. I know because we just had a client from the States that came. We got her help, and she went up back. And I literally had to watch that young lady die because I was not in a position to help her because we didn't have the facility to keep him. There's a 14-year-old boy that I have right now that has a tumor in his neck that is in a similar state. Not only herbs we do other therapies like ozone therapy that is very effective, especially for breast cancer. I told the father that if he can find somewhere in Portland for him to stay, then he can come to the clinic and stay. But we're in desperate need of something in Portland that.
So Dr. asking for some
housing
that is near your area, so you can be able to facilitate, because the person is coming from a different parish. Right. How do you work with?
So right now we use a facility for 10 days, and because of the facility, it's kind of expensive. 10 days is sometimes nowhere to start. We have persons that we have for 3 years working with who can't afford it, but we try to squeeze them in. My wife and I, where we can, squeeze them in, and we have them going for a very long period of time. But if we could get a facility where persons could come, even if they don't have the money, if they could come and stay, we could help them. Because for me, money is not it, because I think we put too much emphasis on money. We've made money too valuable. You understand? And that's why I believe is destroying not only the world, but as it relates to natural medicine. We have led people to believe that natural medicine is too expensive, so they can't go that route. You know, so I'm just putting that out. If you know of any housing facility.
A number of cases where people from the US have the resources, they come to Jamaica, clean themselves up, and they go back and everything is great. but then we don't have access to that because, you know, we don't have the resources, and we have to now create ways. This, you know, we have.
And there's a facility, you have a facility here. The offer that you gave me is not in the back of my mind. It's in the front.
Yeah, this is something. Yeah.
So there's a facility here,
right.
and sitting there, and so we're gonna utilize that. But it's gonna mean, you know, getting a whole lot of staff and so on. I already have a team in Portland, which is why it would be good if I could get a facility there, because we already have people that know what to do. We can just throw them right in.
All right. So these webinars and these things, we just you listen in, and it's just that, and we just a talk, and but it's action time now. And so, you know, each one help one, and it's really about moving into more of a cooperative, collective space that we now have to be able to, because there we go, but with the grace of God, right? It could be us, it could be somebody in our family that needs help. So we have to now start working with the people who are awake, because everybody's awake, but you to be on this call and be interested in this thing. We have 51 people on the call today. Is not everybody that is awake. And so those of us who are awake and are hearing, we need to start to step up. And in our spirit, we know what we need to do. But we're just kind of sometimes afraid of what people are going to say, or, oh, I don't have this and the time and whatever. But if we put a little energy towards it, you'll be amazed at how, say, for instance, somebody wanted to volunteer for the day. You know, like we're having a project now with the seed saving and seed planting. I'm telling people, you want seeds, you need to come out here and give me a day, right? Come and help us do something. And you need to say, I don't know. You come for the day, you get energized, you learn something, right? What is that going to cost? You could be sitting there farting around watching Netflix for hours and not really actually accomplishing anything and being programmed a certain way. Let Nate come in and see how you can help. So I'm just, you know, you have the number for Dr. Ben. It's been posted, I think. We're also here at Source. That's the only way we're going to turn the ship. The ship cannot, it's just on a crazy direction. If you want to change the ship, this is when you all have to get involved and not say we can't do, right? A number of us have stepped up. We need to step up more. You have a friend or somebody else that is interested in this, call and say, Nicola, can you, how can I help? How can I help? And there's a number of things that need to, either working with Dr. Ben and helping him. It could be just taking that tea to that person, or, you know, donating something in the farmer's market, ginger, whatever, for that person that needs that help. Or come in and say, we need to plant these medicines, or even come and volunteer at the farmer's market. We need so much help there. Come for one day and give our afternoon at the farmer's market and feel the vibe and help us, help Jerome or help the farm. There's so many different things. If we reschedule our day and look at what is it that we're giving our energy to all these other things and not to the things that we need. We actually need help with doing these things. So I am very, very grateful for Doc for being here. I am asking, I think Colleen is going to do the thanks. Colleen, can you come on? Colleen, are you there? On mute?
I'm sorry, I was caught between the chat. There is so much energy and excitement around this particular, and I see requests for part 2. So I don't know when you're next available, Doc, but you have to come back. And yes, I just want to say so many thanks for freely sharing this life-saving, life-giving information that you have. And the walk is the other part of it that we need to actually get out and look out. And we'll be videoing it so the people who are not in Jamaica can see what it is we're talking about, so they can know what it is in their land, their country, what is going to save them and give them a better quality of life. And just thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say it.
My pleasure.
And I thank you, Doctor, actually.
They're not hearing you, not hearing you.
You're doing a good job.
So we just, and also I'm so grateful for everyone that took time out of the 2 hours out of their very busy schedule. I know you're all busy on a Sunday to come and listen in and to ask questions. I'm so grateful and so thankful. And we're here, I'm going to be here, you know, God willing, every Sunday. To next week is about cucumbers. Farmers are having issues with cucumbers. We have got, his name is Edmund Frost.
He's a really beautiful soul, and he's just one of those great guys that understand organic farming and has a wealth of knowledge as well. So Doc, you know, we have a whole lot of work to do, and we'll try to see if we can get you on, and we go from there. So everybody has an amazing week, and start to think about some of the things that Doc has said, and try to start how we can slowly change our, because with that program, we have to deprogram. So maybe tomorrow we get up and we do some tea, and we start with alkaline water. I know I'm going to do that, and then and do some teas, and then at 11 o'clock I'm going to start looking at food. All right. Thanks everyone, and have a great night. How do we get the recording? It was saved by Colleen. We'll make sure it gets out, right, Colleen? Yes.
The YouTube channel of your post it on.
But she's going to, or and then Dr. Morgan. Oh, thank you so much. You see what I mean, Doc? Exactly. All right. Much peace. Good night, everyone.
Night, Nick, and give thanks, my brother, for the confirmation. You know, give thanks, Nick, once again. Because, you know, my farm did start talking to me and show me some things. And, you know, that it's confirmed everything now. So I'm definitely glad to hear a lot of things. I learned a lot today. Give thanks, give thanks.
And thank you for all the people from the Caribbean that tuned in as well. And I see some people from Tuskegee and the US that are also on the call. Thank you guys for tuning in, and see you next week.